What's up, guys? Welcome back to the That Sowdev podcast. My name is Dev. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I appreciate you. You know we have some tea to get into, some thankful tea, okay? Now, y'all know how I get down. But before we get into this tea, make sure you go ahead and follow me at That Sowdev on Twitter, Instagram, and literally everywhere else, including YouTube. And if you're streaming over there, give this a like and subscribe. Love that for you. Whew! Girl! We need to chat because it's Thanksgiving baking time. And you know every year I do my baking. So we're here to talk about my bakings. And I'm really excited to talk about my bakings. Now look, I kept it really cute and really simple. And y'all know these podcasts are not very long. So we're just going to get straight into it. But I just feel so excited about my baking. Like, let's talk about it genuinely. Okay, so I only baked 3 things, and the easiest thing that I baked this time was the Rice Krispies. I had a beautiful time. Now, I don't share my recipes because I'm eventually going to put those into a cookbook and blah, 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 and do all of that stuff, notarize them. I have my very own recipes down. I'm talking about baking science. Like, yes, figuring all of that extra stuff out. Like, it's one thing. It's like when somebody gives you advice, and instead of taking that advice per se, you kind of take something from that advice. You take a piece from everyone's advice. You know what I mean? And you really do your own thing. It's like when you're also going into a studio and you're creating music, you know, like maybe you use a sample or whatever the case may be. You know, most songs use the same 3 chords. So it's just like everything is just a recreation of something that's already been created. So, you know, that's just really how I look at your own recipe. And I don't really think people know how hard it is to come up with your own recipes. But I think that after such a long time of practice and such a long time of just doing this, like baking is my way of living, it just kind of came out, honestly. So the Rice Krispies, it was really cute. I wanted to make a small batch because I tend to make too many Krispies. And I don't want to do that, okay? Because where is it going? I give little treat boxes to my neighbors, and, you know, I enjoy the Krispies and the fam, and then we just kind of move on from that. But I wanted to do something just like slightly different. So I got me some French vanilla marshmallows. I wanted to just spice it up a little bit. You know what I mean? I mean, the difference between vanilla and French vanilla, to me, it's not too different, but it's different enough to taste. So I got me some French vanilla marshmallows, and I did some unsalted butter. I think I put 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter into my pot. If you want to go ahead and follow along the recipe, write it down. Doesn't matter, it's super easy. 2 tablespoons of butter. I prepared my 2 cups of cereal, 2 cups of marshmallows, and about a tablespoon of sprinkles for the inside of the Krispies. I also wanted to make them orange just because the sprinkles that I had were brown, orange, and white in Thanksgiving, so I really wanted to stay on brand. So I just got me, you know, my food coloring drops. I did 2 drops of red, 1 drop of yellow, and it kind of gave it this dark orange color. It was supposed to be like a peachy color, but it's fine. It's not that serious to me. It still came out orange. It's still on brand. So I melted my 2 tablespoons of butter. I browned that butter, and then I put in my 2 cups of marshmallows. And then I just kind of let it do its thing until the marshmallows are done. I'm constantly stirring the marshmallows in the butter because I don't want things to really burn. We want them to brown, like the butter. You want the butter to brown, but you don't want it to burn. There's a big difference. And I just realized, I feel like the browned butter gives it this like caramel type like taste, and it's really earthy and sweet to me. So I do that. I get the marshmallows melted. After the marshmallows are melted, I put in my food coloring. And then after the food coloring, I'll put in my Krispies. But after the marshmallows are melted, I immediately take it off there. There's really no need for me to keep it on the stove. So after I put my Krispies in, I mix it all up. I maybe put just a little bit of extra marshmallows. If you want like that extra gooiness, you can put a little extra marshmallows up inside that motherfucker. So I didn't do that this time. The whole process of it was I typically will make the marshmallows, put the cereals in, and then I'll put the marshmallows inside extra to kind of give it that gooey type thing. But Sometimes I put a little too many marshmallows and it makes it too gooey. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna play it safe this time, which was perfectly fine. It came out perfect to me, so genuinely. So after I was done, doing all that, blah, 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 I have at this point, my Rice Krispies is forming inside the pot. I'm going to put it inside of a baking pan. Now, you can use, I wouldn't use wax paper, use parchment paper, or if you don't have parchment paper, use aluminum foil, but I prefer parchment paper. I use aluminum foil because I totally forgot about it. And I used a loaf pan and I just stuffed that motherfucker up in there, and I sprinkled my sprinkles on top, and then I put extra marshmallows on top of the marshmallows. Well, the Rice Krispie treats. Y'all know what I mean, y'all. So that was wonderful. I put that in the fridge and I just kind of let it do its thing for however long while I did everything else. So those are really fun to do. It's really, really easy. 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 cups of cereal, 2 cups of marshmallows, 1/4 tablespoon of vanilla. If you want to add any, I did it just because of the flavor of marshmallows. But it tasted perfectly fine to me. That's pretty much it. If you want to add sprinkles, you can. You don't have to. If you want to add Oreo bits to make it cookies and cream, you can just customize however you want to. But you just want to obviously make sure you do your butter, your marshmallows, and your Rice Krispies. People even they do it in the microwave too. People do it in the air fryer. They'll put their marshmallows down, they'll sprinkle the cereal on top, and then they'll just put squares of butter on top, or they'll just melt the butter in the microwave, and then they'll put the marshmallows in, melt the marshmallows, put the cereals in. There's several methods that you can use to make this, but I just personally find the stove to I don't know, it's just second nature. You know what I mean? It's second, with everything that I do, just use the stove, it was just okay, I didn't even have to think about it, even though there may have been a quote-unquote easier way. But yeah, so that's that. There are my Krispies, and those taste so wonderful. They have a nice, this crispiness on the outside, and on the inside is just so marshmallowy and soft, and it's just amazing to me. I'm obsessed with them, bitch, truly, because I got so tired of making too many gooey marshmallows. They were good, they were wonderful, but they were just so gooey, and I had to find the right balance. And that's the big thing about finding my own recipe that works for me, that comes out consistently for me. You do it over and over again until you get it right. And I'm kind of at that point now where I'm okay, you want to know, I figured out this Rice Krispie thing, and I'm just going to play it safe right now. It's not even necessarily playing it safe. I'm going to stick by the rules because I'm super extra, and I will, if my baking line, it's so complex, and in the middle of doing something, I may be oh my god, you want to know what, this looks better, this seems better, this might be a better path for me to go about this, so God knows what my mind will decide to do. So I'm just grateful that a bitch decided to keep it simple. But okay, moving on. So this next thing, my cookies, I'm actually very excited about the cookies. So here's what makes me excited even more so about the cookies. So I was already going to make spice cookies, right? And I came across these pumpkin spice chocolate chips. They're not chocolate, right? But they're in the shape of chips, and they're pumpkin spice flavor. So I said, you know what? I'm already making homemade spice cookies, right? So I'm just going to make some pumpkin spice chip cookies because, right? Hold that thought, right? Stay with me here, because chocolate chip cookies, the cookie without the chocolate chips is a brown sugar cookie. That's what a chocolate chip cookie without chocolate chips in it is. It's a brown sugar cookie. But I'm not walking around calling that cookie a brown sugar chocolate chip cookie. No, the fuck I'm not. I'm calling it a chocolate chip cookie. So I'm gonna call this a pumpkin spice chip cookie. Hello. Well, yes. Keep up, girl. Now, I think that these are wonderful. Am I gonna give my recipe away for that? No, absolutely not. There's just some things I don't do. And the cakes and cookies, for the most part, they're going to be the ones that I don't share. But the cookies, they just came out so wonderful. I really want to make sure that I added some brown sugar into them because I am a brown sugar girly, and I love just the texture and the chewiness that I get from the brown sugar in my cookies. And my favorite part also, because when I cream my butter and my sugar, but I also add some brown sugar into that little mix. So I cream my sugar, brown sugar, and my butter at the same time. So it's just kind of such a wonderful mix. I can't help it but taste it a little bit. I can't. What can I say? I know it's butter sugar. It's probably the worst thing for you, but like for me, I need to taste it to know where it's at. And that's really just me. And when I do cream, after I cream, obviously, after I do my creaming, that's when I add my eggs. That's when I add, whatever type of flavoring that we're going to do. I like to use extracts and oils, but it just depends. Like, if I need something that to really embody a flavor, that's when I'm really going to probably use oil. But for this, I was really able to use a pumpkin spice extract, actually. So that was great. I also used the pumpkin spice seasoning because I really want to bring the spice out of these cookies. I'm a very big spice person, and I always change out. I mean, come on, gingerbread, all the spices in gingerbread, all the spices, generally speaking, inside, like cinnamon. You do have the cinnamons, you have the nutmegs, you have the cloves. Like, there's just so many different spices in one thing. Like, something could be called like a cinnamon cookie, but it has so many different spices in it. It's not just cinnamon. Like, cinnamon's not the only spice, girl. Be for real. So that was super exciting. I think that the extract really brought out the flavor. And I also used just a little bit of pumpkin puree inside the cookies as well. So I feel like it really just embodied the pumpkin flavor, and that spice really popped out of it, because I was originally just going for a regular old spice cookie. I mean, it's, you could call it a spiced sugar cookie if you want to, per se, but it's not really a sugar cookie, but close. Anywho, yeah, I think that cookie came out amazing. So after I make my doughs, girl, get this. I have a cookie scooper now, which it's the best thing in the world. Like the ice cream scoopers, but for cookies, fantastic. Perfect portions. But before I scooped out my portions, I only put 1 cup of the chips into my cookies, because that's like the perfect amount. Like, if I'm going to mix anything in anything, like if I'm going to mix anything into my cakes or into my cookies, I'm probably going to do about 1 cup of it every time. And it's usually just the perfect amount. So after I got my dough ready, I mixed in my chips. I folded them in. I didn't mix them in. That's important. You do want to fold those in. You don't want to mix those in. So after that, I scooped up my cookies. I separated them nice and even, and they honestly just came out so good. They're so soft. There's just chewiness to it, and the chips inside, it's just like it adds on a burst of flavor. You eat the cookie, you get all that spice, but then the chip on top of it with the spiced cookie, it's fucking heaven. Like, whoa. I was gagged a bit. No, let's talk about it, because what do you mean? It's funny because every time I bake something, everybody's like, why are you surprised? I was like, I'm surprised every time I make something good, because I know that this shit isn't easy. I know one false move and this shit is over. Do you hear me? All that time that you spend baking something, one false move and you're starting over, or it's not coming out as good. And there's no option for me. The bitch is coming out good, okay? But I have a lot of fun when it comes to baking, and I think that this time I'm really but here's the thing, right? So when it comes to holiday baking, I've scaled it back a lot. I used to bake so many things, and for Christmas I'm baking so many things that I probably need to start 2 days before. I'm not joking. But I used to bake such a long menu, and it would take me, I would be in the kitchen for 12 hours baking, not even joking, for 12 hours, and it would just be exhausting. Things would not come out the way that I want to. I would probably get at least half of the things done the way that I want. The other half, 25% of it, good enough. The other 25% of it, you know what I mean? So I've dialed the menu back for every occasion to about 2 to 3 things. And it's allowed me to focus on each thing individually, because I bake first. I bake everything first. That's all. I'll bake one thing at a time. I'll get my cakes. Once my cakes are in the oven, I'll prep my cookies to go. After the cakes are done, I'm going to take them out, cool them. The cookies are going into the oven. I'm just constantly creating a rotation of things. So that way, whenever I do get done with my baking, I'm going to make sure I turn that stove off because the kitchen is too hot. And if you decorate inside the kitchen, I'm in Vegas. Look, it's hot all the time. But if you decorate inside that kitchen, it's going to make it very difficult for you to decorate your cakes and stuff. The frostings, they may be a bit slicker than what you want. The cakes may slide or whatever. So I use a lot of different techniques, especially when it comes to my cakes. But I think that the cookies overall, oh my goodness, it was definitely a good time. I have a lot of new baking equipment that makes things run a bit smoother and faster. So I'm just enjoying the experience in the process of me becoming a more sharp baker. Essentially, all that to just say that a bitch is becoming more sharp. So, the Rice Krispies, fantastic. With a marshmallowy inside with a nice crispy outside. Is not too crispy, but just enough. We have our cookie. Oh my goodness, so soft on the inside. It has a nice chew to it from my brown sugar. And then that pumpkin spice burst on top of the spice cookie. I mean, you just can't ask for more. Now, the last thing that I made. Okay, the last thing that I made. We saved the best for last. Come on. Don't play in my face. Because y'all know how I get down in the kitchen. I made a Biscoff cookie cake. Bitch. And no, not like a cookie cake, like the cookie is inside of a pie pan and you gotta cut it like a slice of cake. No, I made Biscoff cookies and turned all that shit into a cake. Girl. And here's the thing. I made all of it top to bottom from scratch, including the Biscoff frosting. I'm not giving that recipe away, but I may let you guys know kind of what I did kind of here and there to kind of really spruce it up. So, obviously I used the cookie butter. That's what I'm going to say. How else are you going to get a cookie butter flavor without cookie butter? That's the one thing I'm going to tell you. The cookie butter is in the cake and it's in the frosting. That is what's going to bring that cookie butter flavor to life. And I also use the real cookies inside the cake and inside the frosting. You need to incorporate the product more than anything. And that's because cookie butter has such a taste. And if you really want to wholesomely capture the flavor of it, you really need to use it. You don't need to be cheap and you don't need to be light on it either. That's just me. Everybody bakes differently. But coming from me, yeah. So that's my little sneak peek on what to do. You fold that into your mixes, you fold that into your frostings, and bada bada boom. Anything else that I did, I'm not sharing. But let me tell you something. This motherfucking cake, it goes so crazy. In my cakes, I don't use water. I only use milk. But I only use almond and oat mix. Boom. I use almond and oat mix in my cakes. That's what I can say. I also use butter in my cakes. I don't use oils in my cake. It just makes my cakes much more fluffy. I think that it takes the texture to it to a different level. Now, girl, I'm telling you, this cookie butter cake is insane. So, obviously, as we know, I make my doughs. I mean my batter. Girl, I'm forgetting what dessert I'm on. But, I make my batters. I fold in, the cookies, whatever, because I don't want to mix it into the cake. I want to fold it because I really want those cookies to bake into the cake. So after I do that, I put my cake, batter into the pans. And I sprinkle some more cookies on top of the cake, and then I let my cakes bake. And, as I'm creating my frosting, what's really annoying is how often that I have to add powdered sugar in milk. Like, how annoying. Like, I get it. It's part of the process. Like, how? So you don't get some good ass motherfucking frosting. But bitch, it does not have to mean I like the process. Okay. Anyway, so here I am making my frostings and get everything done. And then after that, I'm going to also fold again more cookies into the frosting. Right? So, cake's out the oven. Now, what am I going to do with that? I want to make sure that I incorporate cookies into absolutely every single part. And I mean, I'm an extra bitch. So I'm going to be extra with these cookies. I've already got it inside of my cake. I've already got it inside of my frosting. What else can I do, right? So here I am. I'm decorating my cake, and I've got new methods, right? This isn't a new method, but it's a new method for me using it. So I'm tired of having my cake sliding and moving or whatever the case may be. So to keep my structure of my cakes, I'm putting straws in between the cakes. So that way it helps keeps the structure of the cake. And it also helped that the frosting just was a bit thicker, but it was fluffy. It was fluffy and it was thick, and it allowed the cake to really hold in place, which is fantastic. So, you know, I get my layer down, I put my little frosting, I put my cake layer on there so it doesn't move. And then after I put the frosting on the first layer, I want to put cookies in between the layers. So that way when you slice the cake in half, you get a real thick amount of frosting in the middle. And then you also get a cookie with that. Like, it's a cookie butter cake. Every piece that you eat is going to have cookie butter. And I do mean every piece. I'm not joking. That Biscoff is everywhere, ho. You can't hide from her. Anyway, no. I can't. I'm like, you know, Sowdev. Anyway, girl, so after I get my cookies, I get my frosting, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put little dollops of frosting in between, like on top of the cookies, I should say, so that way when I put the next layer on, it's really just kind of sticking there. But it's not covered in the middle with cookies. There's still room for the frosting to rise up in between once you put that second layer on top. I was gonna do 3 layers, but the way my patience work, not today. So, you know, I get what I needs done, and I just feel like that really added such a element to the cake, because the best part of the cake to me, of any cake, is obviously the frosting. And when I get a slice of cake, I want to make sure that each slice, each piece that I take has frosting. So whatever's in the middle, I'm going to eat with that bottom slice, right? But whatever's on top, I'm going to eat with the top layer. So I want to make sure each layer has enough frosting for somebody to take a piece off of that and get a little bit of the frosting, but not lose any from the top. That is a big thing for me. I like a good ratio. And if you don't want that much frosting, you don't have to have it. You don't have to eat it. That's totally fine. Right? The option to leave it there is totally there. So, yeah, I absolutely love that. I just feel like I made such a good ratio of cake in every way. So, yeah. That was my Biscoff cookie cake. Obviously, I have to be vague as fuck, and I have to figure out how I'm going to say some things because I can't say everything. So, like, I'm all over the place. But it's fine. So, I have my Rice Krispies, my French vanilla Rice Krispies. I have my pumpkin spice chip cookies, and I have my Biscoff cookie cake, and it is amazing. Obviously, I had to top it off, and decorating is probably my favorite part of all of this. And the only thing I had to really truly decorate was the cake, which is fine because I didn't have enough time anyway. But so I decided to pulsate some Biscoff cookies, and I love to have a good border. If it's not with frosting, it needs to be with whatever the cake is themed after. Like, you know, even if it can be graham crackers, fine. But like if it's an Oreo cookie, I'm going to pulsate the Oreo and I'm going to create a border at the bottom of the cake. In this one, I did the same thing. I took the cookies, I pulsated them, and then I put them at the bottom as a little border. And then I sprinkled the cookies on top of the cake. I put a whole piece of the Biscoff cookie, and then I melted the cookie butter, and then I drizzled the cookie butter on top of the cake to just really make it pop and make it look pretty. And it looks like a cheesecake, which is kind of crazy. I don't eat cheesecake. I make them, but I don't eat cheesecake. Not a fan. It definitely looks like one though. I love that for me. But yeah, that's really all that I have today for Thanksgiving baking. I mean, it's just been one of those, it's been a very simple baking. It's simple for me because a lot of people are like, well, bitch, you told me this was simple. And it's not simple. It's simple for me because I do know what I'm doing. And it's just kind of like, like the back of my hand, off the top of my head, like butter. I mean, I know how to do it with my eyes closed. So it's definitely something where I'm just sharpening my tool, where I'm just getting more crisp at this. So I'm very excited to see what I do next. I know Christmas is going to be crazy, which is why I took a little backseat for Thanksgiving. I took a little backseat for Halloween as well. For Halloween, I made some oatmeal cookies. I think they were spiced oatmeal cookies. Obviously, I love spices. Before, I think it was pumpkin spiced oatmeal cookies. And then I did some Bengal spiced gingerbread cookies as well. What can I say? I love me some spices, especially from India. Don't blame me. Okay? So, I'm very excited about the baking that I've done. I'm very excited about the baking that's coming up. So stay tuned for Christmas baking. That's going to come on Christmas as well. And that's really all I have to discuss with you guys. I just love talking baking when we come on here every time. It's just such a good time. And the fact that y'all be sitting up here still listening is crazy. What do you mean? Like, what are you even listening to? Wait. No, I'm joking. All right, y'all. I have plenty of things that I need to do, but look, I appreciate you guys nonetheless for rocking with me. You're iconic. You're here every holiday for the baking teas, and I'm going to be back every holiday for the baking teas. So as long as you're around, I'm around. As long as I'm around, you're around. Hey, it's a team effort, right? Go us. Okay, no, for real, I'm getting off here because I have way too much to do, and I have a lot of cooking to do as well. So thank you guys so much for listening to the That's So Dev podcast, where you stay true and stay you. It was Thanksgiving baking today, Christmas baking next time. So stick around, and we will have more to discuss. All right, y'all, make sure you drink some water, eat some good food, take care of yourself, because if you don't, who the hell else will? Period. All right, now for real, I'm hopping off here. I will see you guys on the next podcast.